Hello, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm not sure whether group number 3 or group number 4 are you all here?
Group number 3 is here, teacher.
Okay, you ready to present?
Yes, teacher.
Okay, please share your slide.
Please give us a minute, teacher.
Okay, I can see your slide now. So there are only 3 presenters?
Yes, teacher. We will switch
okay.
to the other 3 will switch to present in the next round, teacher.
Okay.
Yes, so good evening, teacher, and hello, everyone. So we are from group number 3, and we are going to continue the part from the previous presenter of the impacts of IO 4.0. So we will focus on the impact of the fourth industrial revolution on um, on the national and global society and the individual level. So there are 6 members of our group, but 3 will be the presenters. Um, so the first one is me, Brom Chumei, and so we Sang will be responsible. In so we Sang in Mani also the presenter, and the other 3 is Numo God, Ho Charlie Hiên, and Wang Chan Sang. Next slide, please. So here are the table of contents. I will be covering the national and global level. Rizal will cover society, and Mani will cover individual. Next slide, please. Okay, so to start off, I'm going to present about the impact of IR 4.0 on national and global level. So the overview of this session is that this session is discussing about the impacts or the influence that IR 4.0 is having on the relation and connection between the government, social section, citizen and organization in the national, regional, and international levels. Um, um, so the given disruptive changes by the IR 4.0, it questions on how the institution or organization operate in response to the changes. There's also a statement that saying that the adaptation and finding new way of collaboration through IR 4.0 in response by the institution and organization. So in the new era of IR 4.0, that is having a modernization with greater significant technology, it also might lead to the difficulties for the political system, the existing political system to govern. And the government might be less effective as well. So with this, it is recommended that the traditional ways to govern is actually less effective. And the leader as well as the government should learn to adapt the transaction of new scientific, technological, economic, and societal framework. Next slide, please. Yes, so moving to the government level. So as IR 4.0 mostly put impacts on the criticism of the use of traditional level, or sorry, traditional system of governing of governing from the government. IR 4.0 also introduced a new digital technology. New digital technology to govern in the new era. So the intensive innovation based on IO 4.0 will help the public administration to modernize their structure and their function, to improve the overall outcome for publicity. So the new system that is recommended by the 4.0 are the improve or foster or strengthen the greater transparency, accountability, and engagement between the government and the citizen in the possible easier way. The author also suggested that the government should also recognize that the power is shifting from the non-state actor to from the state actor to non-state actor, and also from established institution to loose networks. It is the result from the emerging innovation that the IR 4.0 provides. So by this, the technology of the social grouping and social interaction will foster the assembly to exercise the influence virtually. So we can see that through social media, it is way easier to organize any assembly to have any influence virtually. So at this point, the government is among the most impacted sector from IR 4.0 in terms of nature of power. So the author also point out that it might be difficult for the government and policymaker to govern today more than govern the society in the past. So with the increasing technology, the government system will be forced to change as their central role of conducting policy is diminished due to the growth of power rival or challenges that technology make it possible. Moreover, there is also higher expectation and higher demanding from the citizen overall to the government. They have high expectation that the government should provide and deliver more effective and significant public services in most efficient and individualized ways. The question is that what is the capacity or the ability that the government have in order to adapt the new technological system to govern? If the government is capable of learning and adapting the new transformative way of technology by subjecting their structure or um, system to the level of transparency or efficiency that meets the citizen expectation, then the government should be able to endure with the new environment or the new era of IR 4.0. Um, Even though the new innovation is needed, the regulator, the policymaker are also being challenged to the unprecedented level or degree. This is because the political, legislative, or regulatory authority are overtaken, or we can say they prioritize more on the emerging events like in the society every day rather than prioritizing to cope with the technological changes. So it is being raised that the current regulations that the government is establishing or is delivering does not actually meet with the current stages of technological advancement. So to do so or to adjust with the changes of the regulation to meet with the um, fast speeding technology, the government should collaborate closely with the business, civil society, um, private sector, or to shape with the necessary global, regional, and industrial transformation. So it is more in a more important feature in a world where essential public function, social communication, and personal information is migrating to digital platform. Um, the government should also seek to um, collaborate with the business and civil society to create rules, checks and balance, to maintain justice, competitiveness, fairness, inclusive intellectual property, safety, and liability. So there are two simple approaches that are raised in the book for the government to follow in the digital framework. So to To regulate the society in the digital era, the first approach is everything that is not expli- explicitly forbidden is allowed, and the second one is everything that is explicitly allowed is forbidden. So the author also suggests that the government must learn to blend these two approaches together and ensure that human beings remain the center of all decision. This is a challenging task for the government in this era of IR 4.0, as they must let the innovation flourish while minimizing the possible risks. The government will need to engage with the citizen in a more effective way as well, and conducting policy experiment and allow the learning and adaptation. So the government must learn very quick with the demanding from the citizen. The government and the citizen must also rethink about their respective roles and how they interact with each other. Next slide, please. So now we move to the impacts of 4.0 on countries, regions, and city. So the overview of this part is that when it comes to digital technology, there is no border to be considered. For example, we cannot measure which geographical area will be impacted by the rise of digital technology and which geographical area is not. There is also a question on whether the Western Europe and the United States will be the leading in this era of digital revolution, just as they did in the third industrial revolution. Another interesting question is that will there be a greater and more effective collaboration for the better society, or will we see fragmentation not only within the country but also cross border country as well? So there are two sub titles in this main part. The first one is innovation enabling regulations, or based on my understanding, it is the ability to produce regulations that foster or promote the emergence of innovations. So the author stated that for the countries that master or succeed in establishing future international norms, such as 5G communication, the use of commercial drone, Internet of Things, digital health, advanced manufacturing, or more, they will reap or they will reap the consider they will reap the economics and benefit and financial benefits. So like they will grow faster than any other countries that does not have advanced technology in this sector. For the countries that keep on prioritizing their norms and rules, or traditional norms and rules that give advantages to the domestic producer, ignoring the foreign competitor, risk of isolation from the global norms. This kind of sector will put this nation at risk of becoming laggards, or they will stay behind other countries that adapt the new digital economy. The issue is that the legislation and the compliance at the national and regional level will shape ecosystem in which the disruptive companies operate. Um, for example, of how the compliance shape the ecosystem in the regional level, is that on October 2015, there is a decision made by the European Court of Justice, or ECJ, on invalidate the Safe Harbor Agreement. So the Safe Harbor Agreement is like the guided the platform that guide the flow of data between EU and the US. So mainly when the US company or investor invest in the EU, and when they build their company, so the data must flow from the EU to the US. However, the agreement on the Safe Harbor Agreement was invalidated. So This will put the companies, the US companies suffer when they do business in EU, or they will have issues in connection. So this example reinforces the increasing importance of innovation system. So the innovation system, just like you see in the picture, it's like the interconnection um, between a lot of stakeholders. So they will have to connect with each other with the flow or exchange of data. So the book also stated with the example, like the North American companies remains the most innovative in the world. That is because they are on top of four synergistic technology revolution, including technology fuel innovation in technology production, advanced and digital manufacturing, life science, and transformation technology. However, some other parts of the world is actually rapidly catching up with the North American and the EU company as well. One of the example is China. So the estimates of China's innovation in performance have increased to 49% of the EU level in 2015. So with this, China actually, it is because China shifts its economic model to focus on innovation and services. So this example shows that policy or regulation choices will determine whether a specific country or region can capitalize on the opportunity provided by the technology or the IE410. The second point is the regions and city as hubs for innovation. So innovation has effects on national and regions level, just like we all know how technology and innovation improve and foster and also give bad impacts to the nations and regional level. So the rise of automation may bring impacts on region, especially for the fast growing markets and the developing countries. So actually, these two are different: fast-growing markets and developing countries. Um, Fast-growing market, I believe it focuses more on like a country that has fast growing market like China or Brazil, while developing countries is as most country in Southeast Asia. Where it could impacts. So the automation also could impact the comparative advantages of labor-intensive production on goods and services. Um, Moreover, the speed of a city or a region to um, absorb or deploy a superfast um, broadband digital technology, like transportation, energy consumption by recycling, will also make the city more efficient and more attractive than other in opposite. So um, it is essential and critical for the region or the city to focus on developing and assuring access to the use of information and technology and communication technology in IR401. Next slide, please. So for the international security, there are like six subtitles. So international, so despite all the prosperity and benefits that I mentioned earlier that we can get from innovation, security is actually barely discussed, especially outside the government or defense industry. The critical danger is that the hyper-connected world or the world that, or the hyper-connected world means that each region tend to be connected with each other through technology like social media or something. So the hyper connected world leads to increase in fragmentation, segregation, and social disruption, which will create the condition for violent extremism. So the fourth industrial revolution not only presented change of nature of security threat, but also influenced the shift of power, just like I mentioned earlier, from state to state actor. So next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, so the connectivity. So this is one of the subtitle under international security. The first one is connectivity, fragmentation, and social unrest. The author raised 2 points. One is pros, and another one is cons. So the pros part, the hyper-connected world bring everyone closer, where information, idea, and people travel faster than ever before. And the cons, however, this kind of technology raises inequality, widens social exclusion, and challenges to find reliable source of meaning or information. And the fragmented society will motivate the extremists to challenge with the existing system. Next slide, please. So this is the changing nature of conflict. So the traditional war and peace between combatant and non-combatant is becoming more of blur under the emergence of technology and technology security. At this point, the battlefield has expanded its scope both local and global. So, for example, in the Middle East, the recruited fighters are from more than 100 countries, likely recruited through social media. So the terrorist attack can occur everywhere around the world. The following point is the cyber warfare. So given the potential emerging technology that improve software or computer system, cyber attack is one of the most severe attack in the modern time. So I think cyber warfare also including the crisis between Russia and Ukraine now as well. So the cyber attack based on the nation bias to the nation that have potential technology, and yet this component is more likely to blur the picture of war and peace, and there will be a more picture of attack behind the scenes that we don't know. So that is because in many states, the network of military system, civilian infrastructure such as energy source, electricity grid, the water supply, and more are stored in a system that is connected to devices like computer or something. So this is so the cyber warfare bring a lot of new different forms of challenging and securities in the local or and global level. Next slide, please. So this is one of the most interesting part in this presentation, the autonomous warfare. So the autonomous warfare include the deployment of military robots and AI powered automated weaponries. This these two things will play a transformative role in the future conflict. So the author stated that the seabed, and space is more likely to be militarized as more technological transformative actors have more capacity to deploy and mobilize underwater vehicles. And it has always been shown the use of quadrocopter drones to spy on or attack on rivals. So the autonomous weapons are capable to open fire without human intervention, and this act will be challenging in the war and also for the laws. Um, the next point is new frontier in global security. So as we know that the world is increasing technology, we already have like neurotechnology such as neuroprosthetic, which are employed to solve medical problems. And in the future, they are believed to be able to apply in the military purpose as well. So this kind of computer system attached to the brain tissues, and they could further control the robotic arms and legs and even direct to a bionic pilots or soldiers. So this is how they create the robotic soldiers. Next slide, please. Yes, so after all the problems, the author also raised the solution or any other alternatives to deal with all those problems. So with all the insecurities that I raised earlier, these problems actually need serious attention. So the cooperation and the collaboration between different sectors, such as public and private sector, on the global scale is significant. We can learn from the past during the nuclear threats. The same thing goes to the fear of nuclear warfare that in the past, that later there is an agreement or agreements on nuclear prohibition. So by acknowledging the danger of nuclear warfare, superpower states eventually agree to keep the nuclear club small to balance the equilibrium. So then we have the creation of the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons in the late 1960s. So the same thing can be effective. We can have the international treaties on the modern technology of AI or IR401. So with the emerging insecurities of IR401, the international treaty will be needed, of course. And however, there will be concerns that the regulatory or the regulators or the policymaker could find themselves running behind technology advancement. So the cooperation and collaboration among educators and developers should extend to emerging technology to establish the common ethical guideline and structure to understand both challenges and opportunity that the fourth industrial revolution is providing. So this is the end of my part. So I would like to give the floor to my other presenter. Thank you.
So thank you, Ming, for the floor. So let's move on to another part, which I will cover on the society, the impact on the fourth industrial revolution on the society. So as we have known that in the current world, scientific advancement and commercial civilization and the fall of innovation are social process that unfold as a as people to develop and exchange idea, value interest and social norm in a variety of context. So in consequence, the big challenges for most society will be how to observe the accommodate the new modernity while still embracing the nourishing aspect of our of the traditional value system. So the first industrial revolution, which tests so many of the fundamental assumptions, may increase the tension which exists between the deeply religious society by defending their fundamental value and those who believe are shaped by more secular worldwide or secular worldwide or the greatest danger to the global cooperation and stability may come from a radical group fighting progress with the extreme ideological motivation for violence. So from what next? So from what our classmate has present so far about the different impact of the fourth industrial revolution on the economy, business, geopolitics, and international security. And the new technology, the new technological revolution will have a multiple influence on society as well. Basically, there are two important drivers of change in society. First of all, we will look at how the potential of rising inequality put pressure on the middle class. So, so the discussion on economic and business impact highlight a number of different structural shifts which have contributed to rising inequality and which may be worsened further as the fourth industrial revolution progress. For example, robot and algorithm increasingly substitute capital for labor, while investing become less capital incentive. And labor market labor market meanwhile are becoming biased toward a limit range of technical skill set and global connected digital platform. and and about the marketplace are creating outside reward to a small number of staff. And therefore, the winner will be those who able to participate fully in the innovation driven economy system by providing a new idea, business model, product and service rather than those who can afford only a low skill labor or ordinary capital. Next slide, please. So through these challenges, the world which lead today world is very unequal indeed. According to the Credit Suisse Global Wealth Report in 2015, half of all assets around the world are now controlled by the richest 1% of the global population, while the lower half of the global population collectively own less than 1% of the global wealth. Moreover, according to the book named The Spirit Level by in Greater Equality Makes Society Stronger by Richard Wilkinson and Kate Pickett, they emphasize that inequality society tend to be more violent and have a higher number of people in prison, experience greater level of the mental illness, and uh, and and have a lower life expectation and low level of stress. However, uh, if if the if equal if we have equal society, they will tend to reach the high level of child well-being, low level of stress and drug use, and the last one will be the lower infant mortality. So next slide, please. So let's move on to another part, which will deliver you about the impact of the fourth industrial revolution on the community. So one of the greatest effects of the digitalization is the emergence of a me-centric society. In another word, the notion of belonging to the community today is more defined by a personal project and individual value and the interest rather than by the local community work or family. So the digital media is try to connect people one to one and one to many in entirely new way, including maintaining friendship and distance across time and distance, and also enabling greater interaction across social, economic, culture, political, religious, and ideology boundary. For example, uh, the refugee fleeing from the city use Google Map and Facebook group not only to plan travel routes, but they also to avoid being exploited by the human trafficking as well. So next slide, please. So unfortunately, while the fourth industrial revolution empowers citizens, it can also be used to act against their interests as well. Basically, individual and community uh, empowered and included by the use of emerging technology by the government, company, and the interest group due to the harmful intention to the spread of uh, uh, propaganda and mobilize followers in favor of extremist cause. For example, the regime like China, North Korea, exert tight control over the regular citizen can uh, to access online or access to digital media in particular. And this is the dangers that the dynamic of the sharing of that uh, type of field social media use can affect decision making and pose risk to society civil the civil society. So this is the end of my part. Let's move on to the last presenter.
So, thank you, Sarah, for the floor, and good evening, lecturer, and hello, everyone. I'm responsible for the last part, which is the individual. So what we do and who we are might be getting some change when we experience the technology or the fourth industrial revolutions. It might affect our identity, our privacy, ownership, our time related to work and leisure, how we develop our career, cultivate our skill as well as influence our relationship or how we meet people. So technology has primarily allowed us to do things easier, faster, and efficient than before, which is such a good opportunity to develop personal skill. However, there is still much more on offer and at stake. Human being is always required to adapt continuously and endlessly because we are at the threshold of radical systemic change. As the result, there will be an increasing degree of polarization in the world, marked by those who embrace the change versus those who resist it. The people who embrace change might be the people from new generation or who already born in the age of advanced technology. They are adaptable. Whereas who resist it might be who fear of the unknown, meaning that the individual tend to find security or more stable in a traditional approach because they feel used to the traditional one. um, we can say that they fear the unclear on the need for change. This create inequality that goes beyond the societal one described earlier. This risk create class conflict caused by those who have only known and grown up in the digital world versus those who have not and who must adapt it. Next slide, please. For this slide, I'm gonna present you about the identity, morality, and ethnic. So, the overwhelming or endless innovation triggered by the fourth industrial revolution, from biotechnology to AI, are redefining what it means to be human. As human beings, we will have to think individually and collectively about how we respond to issues that technology creates. All of us should ask ourselves what we can do now to improve the chance of reaping the benefit and avoid the risk. One interesting development in this area is OpenAI, which is a non-profit AI research company announced in December 2015 with a global with the goal to advance digital intelligence in the way that is most likely to benefit humanity as a whole, unconstrained by a need to generate financial return. And this OpenAI established by Sam Altman, president of Y Combinator, and Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla Motors, has secured around $1 billion in committing funding This initiative underscore a key point made earlier, namely that one of the biggest impact of the fourth industrial revolution is the empowering potential catalyst by fusions of new technology. As Sam Altman stated that the best way AI can develop is if it's about individual empowerment and making human better and made freely available to everyone. We may see designer babies in the near future, along with the whole series of other edits to our humanity. Yes, next slide, please. Um, so the third point, I'm gonna present you about a human connection. Yes, we need to know that even if our today world become more digital and high tech, humans still, human beings still need to feel the human touch, nurtured by close relationship and social connections. Our concern is growing bigger when we deeply involved with high technology in our individual life. It may negatively affect our social skill and ability to empathize. We see this already happening. In 2010, study by the research team at the University of Michigan has found that 40% decline in empathy among college students compared to 20 or 30 years ago. When we are always connected with the technology, we will lose one of the most important assets, which is in the yellow highlight below, stated that the time to pause, reflect, and engage in a substantive conversation, neither aided by technology nor intermediated by social media. According to Sherry Turkle, show that 44% of teenagers as us we rarely take the phone out of hand while doing tasks, play sport, or having meal with family or friend. When people are using phone when they meet each other, will change both when they talk about no will change both what they talk and what they talk about and their degree of connectedness. If you put a cell phone into a social interactions, it does two things. First is it decreases the quality of what we talk about. Second, it decreases the empathic connections that people feel toward each other. We can say that we can have negative effect on closeness, connections, and conversation quality. The presence of mobile phone can interfere with human relationship. Next slide, please. So here is my last slide, talking about the managing public and private information. Um, One of the greatest individual challenge posed by the internet concern privacy. It is an issue that extends larger and larger uh, because human beings nowadays seems to be increasingly willing to trade their privacy, like their personal info, for convenience with many of the devices that they routinely use. Uh, People usually log in into website by filling our personal by filling their personal info in. This is how the internet can be an unprecedentedly tool of liberations and democratization at the same time. We all acknowledge that privacy matters so much. We all instinctively understand why privacy is so essential to our individual self, even for those who claim that they do not particularly value privacy and have nothing to hide. There are all sorts of things said and done that we may not want anyone else to see to know about that. There are also fundamental issues such as the impact on our inner life stemming from the loss of control over our data will intensify in the year ahead. This problem will happen when some of human beings think that it is just a simple info that there is nothing to hide, but it is such a beneficial info to who can grab our info in their hand. So technology is pervasive and predominant part of our individual life, and yet we are only just starting to understand how this technology will affect our inner self. We need to guarantee that we are served, not enslaved by technology. At a collective level, we must also ensure that the challenge technology throw at us are properly understood and analyzed. Only in this way we can be certain that the fourth industrial revolution will enhance rather than make our well-being. Yeah, so it's the end of our presentation. Uh, Next slide, please. Thank you for your paying attention.
Okay, thank you very much for group number 3. Group number 4, you are all here? Hello? If you are not all here,
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So please proceed to your presentation. Hello, group number 4.
Hello.
Excuse me, teacher. Give us a second.
Okay.
So good evening, lecturer and everyone.
Yes.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, but I don't know about, maybe because of my internet connection, I feel like some part is missing. Like that.
No, I think mine is. So next
If
slide,
if,
please.
if you guys if all you guys are okay, that's fine for me. Can people aside from group number 4, can you hear say it well?
Hello, can you guys hear me? Yes, but aside
Yes.
my. Okay. Next slide, please. So this is our table of content. First, we'll start with national and global, and then society and individual. We got a present about the impacts of uh, the fourth industrial revolution on national and global society and individual. Next slide, please. So the fourth industrial revolution urges the government at the regional, national, and local levels to fit in the new wave of industrial revolution. It is by the government do it by finding new ways to collaborate and uh, with their citizen and private sector. The fourth industrial revolution also hit on how countries and government related to each other. So um, in this fourth industrial revolution, the government is the main important role that to master the fourth industrial revolution. Yeah, this is also the force that that are changing the traditional perception of politicians and their role in society. So next slide, please. So in the government sector, the digital technology governing it helped to facilitate the structure function and to improve the administration performance, strengthening process of governing, fostering greater transparency, accountability, and engagement. But between government, however, the powers is also shifting from established institution to loose network, from state to not to non-state actor. um, Not to mention the regulation is also changing. Before before the fourth industrial revolution, the regulation is like it takes more time to establish and to like they have more time to study on each problem and then they make regulation. However, in this new digital world, it it only gives a short time for the government and legislature to create a regulation. And furthermore, throughout the actor. So by Morris Damming, I I don't know if I pronounce his name wrong or right, but he is a journalist. He is a version Venezuela journalist and also a writer. In 21st, he stated that in 21st century, power is easy to get and harder to use, and also easy to lose. So the government is stated by power of transnational province. Opinion coordinate their effort
But I cannot hear you well.
and
I'm not sure.
possibly circulate. Hello, do you hear me now? I think my internet is unstable.
Okay. You want to continue with that, or you let your friend present first and then come to your turn?
So now can you hear me clearly?
I cannot. I'm not sure about your classmate. Can you all hear it well?
Not really.
Okay, I say maybe you can skip first. Give it to your friend to present first about the society and individual, and then come back to the government. Can it be like that? I mean, in case your internet will improve from time to time.
Okay, sure.
Okay, maybe the presenter. You can present the society and then come back to the speech. infrastructure internet is better. Okay. Okay, thank you. So is it like
Okay, teacher. So for in this section, I will explore two of the most important drivers of change. So the first one is inequality and the middle class. So when we talk about the relationship of technology and inequality, modern technology have contributed to rising inequality to date, and which may be further exacerbated as the fourth industrial revolution unfolds. As we see nowadays, robots are replacing human labor in some industry, and labor markets are becoming biased towards a limited range of technical skills, and everything are connected on digital platforms. And who will get the benefit from this? Who will be appreciated in this time? Or another way to say is that who will be the winner? In the fourth industrial revolution era, the winner are those who are able to participate fully in providing new ideas, business models, products and services, rather than those who can offer only low-skill labor or ordinary capital. That's why technology is regarded as one of the main reasons incomes have stagnated or even decreased for a majority of population in high-income countries. Rising inequality is more than an economic phenomenon in some concern. It is a major challenge for societies. Why? Because when societies become unequal, they tend to be more violent, have higher numbers of people in prison, experience greater levels of mental illness and obesity, and sometimes have lower life expectancy and lower level of trust. However, as the result of controlling for average incomes, more equal society have higher level of child well-being, lower level of stress and drug use, and lower infant mortality. As today, a middle-class job no longer guarantees a middle-class lifestyle. And over the past 20 years, the four industrial attributes of middle-class status like education, health, pensions and education is now priced as a luxury. And a winner takes all market economy to which the middle class has increasingly limited access. For instance, in the US and UK, education price right now is kind of luxury price if we compare to the past. And then we move to the second part of society is community. One of the greatest impacts of digitalization in the emergence of me-centered society. And what does me-centered society here refer to? It refers to a process of individuation and emergence of new forms of belonging and community. Different from the past, the belonging to a community today is more defined by personal or individual values and interests rather than by community, work, and family. As a core component of the fourth industrial revolution, digital media plays a big role to connect people one-to-one and one-to-many in entirely new ways, enable people to maintain friendships across time and distance, create new interest groups, and enable people who are socially or physically isolated to connect with like-minded people. The high, the high availability, low cost, and geographically neutral aspect of this digital media also enable greater interaction across social, economic, culture, political, religion, and ideological boundaries. However, while the fourth industrial revolution empowers citizens, it can also be used to act against their interests. And in this phenomenon, we call as the disempowered citizen, which means that individual and community are empowered and disempowered or excluded at the same time by the use of emerging technology by government, company, and interest groups. And Individuals feel empowered by change in technology that make it easier for them to gather information, communicate, and organize. And at the same time, individuals feel increasing excluded from meaningful participate in traditional decision-making process. And as with almost all the impact addressed in this section, it is clear that the fourth industrial revolution brings great opportunity, while at the same time it also posing significant risk. One of the key tasks the world faces as this revolution emerges is how to gather more and better data on both the benefit and challenges to community cohesion. The individual. So who are the individuals? All of us are individual. And the fourth industrial revolution is not only changing what we do, but also who we are. The impact it will have on us as individuals is manifold, affecting our identity and our privacy, our ownership, our relationship. Until now, technology has primarily enabled us to do things in easier, faster, and more efficient ways, as we know. And however, everything always have positive and negative things, just like technology. It gave rise to an inequality that goes beyond the society one described earlier. It separates those who adapt with the technology, the material winners and losers in all sense of the word, and the winner during the industrial revolution era may even benefit from some form of radical human improvement generated by those for industrial revolution technology, while the winner will be deprived, will be lost in the industrial revolution era. And for further conflict or clash, to find out more about this, my teammate will elaborate more in the next slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Niraj, for giving me the floor. So let's move on to the point, identity, molarity, and ethnic. So as the first industrial have comes, there is a development from the biotechnology technology calls to AI, which calls to redefining what it means to be humans. Currently, the four industrial revolutions is pushing the current um, shareholders of the lifespans, health, compare in ways that develop province of the science um, um, morals and ethnicals discuss its really importance. However, this discovering can be manipulated to serve a special interest physicists, also Stephen Hawking and fellow scientists wrote in the newspapers, which is known as the Independence. He had mentioned that the short-term impact of AI depend on who control it, and the long-term impact depend on whether it can be controlled at all. So all of us should ask ourselves what we can do now to improve the chance of wrapping the benefits and avoid the risk. Also, one of the interesting development area, which is known as the non-profit AI research company, announced the Open AI in December 2015, along with the goals to advance digital intelligence in the way that it's more likely to benefit humanity as a whole, uh, unconstrained by a need to generate finance return. One of the biggest impact of the fourth industrial revolution is the empowering potential cut to catalyzed by a few hours of the new technology. So, according to the presidents of Wise Combinators and the CEO of Tesla Motor have uh, secured in $1 billion in the committed fundings. So, the human impact of some particular technologies, such as the internet or smartphone, it tends to be well understood these days. However, another impact that are much more harder to crash, such as the case with the AI or synthetic biology. We might see that these are new baby in the near futures, along with the whole series of other edits to our humanity. Uh, this these issues might be raised some of the biggest ethnic and spiritual questions that we face as a human being. So we have to think individually and collectively about how we respond to these issues, such as the expansions, design babies, memory extensions, and many more. Next slide, please. Nirod, next slide, please. Let's move on to the next point, which is human connections. As the next questions have already raised, so the more digital and high tech the world becomes, the greater the need to feel the human touched by close relationship and social connections. There are growing concerns that as the four industrial revolutions depends on our individuals and connective relationship with technologies, it might cause to have negatively affects our social skills and ability to empathize. According to Mid Shari to tackles 44 of the teenagers never unport, which uh, even while they are playing sport or having meal with their family or friends, with face-to-face conversations crowd out by internet interactions. These are the fear that uh, an entire generation of the young people consumed by social media is struggling to listen, making eye contacts, or reading body language. The study showed that when two people are talking, the presence of a phone on the table between them or in their uh, between them when they are talking about or when they are talking about and their degree of connectionness. However, this does not mean that we should give up our phone, but rather we should use them with the greatest intention. And as the humble Simon who won the Nobel Prize in Economics in 1978 have warned that a wealth of information create a property of attention. As you know that these days it's really hard, especially for decisions maker who tend to be overwhelmed with too much stuff, overwhelming, and over trying in the state of content stress. So in the age of the sun reactions, nothing can be more exhilarating than growing slow. And and in the age of perceptions, nothing is so luxurious as paying attention. And in the age of constant movement, nothing is urgent as sitting still. So our brain engaged by the technology instructions that connect us on a 24-hour basis. And in our new digital age, it is incredibly difficult to step back through. It's really impossible. So let's move on to the next slide. So for the next slide, it is about the managing public and private information. So privacy is one of the greatest individual challenges posted by the internet. Political philosophy of philosophers from the Harvard University has observed that the issues of private have become larger and larger due to the increase of willingness to treat uh, privacy. He mentioned that we seem to increasingly willing to trade privacy for convenience with many of the devices that are routinely reused. Privacy is really important to us, even for those who claim that um, they are not particularly value privacy and have nothing to hide. However, there are some thoughts or things said and done that we might not want anyone else to know about that. The Baden research showed that when someone knows he is being watched, his behavior become more confronted and compliant. However, if however it is not the place to to engage and to talk about the meanings of the privates or to respond to the questions about the data ownerships. Um, uh, but there is a debate about the many fundamental issues such as the impact on our inner lives stemming from the loss of control over our data, and it so it will only intensifies in the years ahead. So, from a personal level, the problem related to privacy when one's life becomes fully transparent and when indiscretions big or small become well knowledgeable to all who we have to in who we have the courage to assume the top leadership responsibilities. And whilst the collective level, we must also ensure that the challenge technology throw at us are properly understood and analyzed. Only in the way that we can certain the for industrial will enhance rather damage in our well-being. So that is all for our part. Maybe we can move on to the first part.
Yep. So, can you start presenting your part?
Um,
Move to government มันนี้ด้วย No, wait, wait.
the first part of Europe.
Yes, this. So can you guys hear me clearly now?
Yes, I can hear you clearly now.
Yeah. So I will start talking about the government again. So the fourth industrial revolution urges the government at every levels from regional, national, and local levels to fit in the new wave of the industrial revolution. By doing so, the government trying to find new ways to collaborate with their citizen and private sector. Um, and technology in government is have to facilitate the structure function to improve the administration performance. Um, from strengthening process of e-governing fostering to fostering greater transparency, accountability, and engagement between government and citizen. However, the power and regulation is also shifting. Um, the power shifted from established institution to loose networks and from state to non-state actors. So throughout the period of change of the industrial revolution, the power in the fourth industrial revolution, the government is amongst the most impacted individuals. As in the book have mentioned by Moise Naam, who is the uh, Venezuela, journalist and also a writer. He stated that in 21st century, power is easier to get, harder to use, and easier to lose because of um, the governing power is constrained by the power of transnational, provincial, and local levels of government, even the individual. And moreover, the technology will increasingly enable citizens to voice their opinion, coordinate their effort, and possibly circumvent government supervision throughout a new way based on the fourth industrial revolution. Uh, um, so the regulation will take more time to establish and not like in the past. In the past, the government have more time. No, in the past, the government have more time to study one problem and establish regulation. But now, the government have to respond quickly to adapt to the new era of industrial revolution. So the government have to like critically study about one problem and then fast respond in establishing the regulation with the legislative. And moreover, um, the 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 for industrial revolution, also the government also faced some challenges like public function, social communication, and personal information. So, as I mentioned, the government powers is now less effective and efficient just because like the technology allow everyone to voice their opinions regarding the problem, the regulation that established by the government, and uh, by and the government need to need to collaborate with business and civil society, need to create the rules in the state of in the statement of checks and balance to maintain justice and competitiveness in the fairness um, and property safety and reliability. So these are the challenges that the government face. So in solving this problem, the government need um, engage more with citizens in order um, to to create and to establish a regulation responding to the problems, and they also need to study about the problem and need to do the policy experiment in order to adapt to the new industrial revolution. So um, um, in both of these tasks mean that government and citizens alike must to rethink their respective roles and how they interact with one another. And not to mention, this is also including like the adaptation need to raising expectation while while also especially acknowledge the need of the citizen and cooperate with multiple perspectives and allow for failures and missteps along the way. Next slide, please. So these are the agile governance principles in an age of disruption of the fourth industrial revolution. So there are six: job market, money and taxation, liability and protection, security and privacy, uh, availability and inclusion, power, asymmetrics. I will try to explain one by one. In job market, in the new eras, worker um, like they have a more flexible time of working, and the like working contract is also it's inherently transient, which give the concern of like uh the new job allow for people to enjoy more flexible working hour and also unleash a whole new wealth of innovation in the job marketplace. However, the concept is that it use the degree of protection in the context of on-demand economy, where every worker has uh, essentially become a contractor and who no longer benefit from job security and longevity. And the next one is money in taxation. The digital payment make it hard for public authority and private sector to trust the origin and destination of transaction. So when the rise of the technology, the transaction of money and the fund and everything is faster and easier. However, uh, it it is hard for the public authority to trust and to notice the amount of transaction and the destination of transaction, and this will give the concern of the black market. And the third one is liability and protection. The government, uh, the government's of so-called like the government have been issuing the so-called monopoly technology, and it is now being disrupted by the advanced technology. In this case, like in the professional field, like pharmacy or if yes, pharmacy or doctor, they need to have a higher degree and uh, in in like they are specialists in one specific job. And but now um but now when the technology disrupted, it enable people to interact with one another on peer-to-peer basis, and by the emergence of novel intermediary in change of coordinating peers and facilitate their interaction. um, for the first one, for the security and privacy in digital world, the increase around cybercrime and identity are also the important concern, because um, it is easier for user, like the data is open, and like um, it is easy to spread and easy to use. However, um, um, in in many in many jurisdictions, the balance between surveillance and freedom is rapidly tipping toward increased monitoring, and it 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 gives the consumer or the user benefit. However, um, when it comes to privacy and individual autonomy, it is a big concern. As I mentioned, it is the increase around the cybercrime and identity theft. And for the fifth one, which is the availability and inclusion. Um, Even those technology like they will like not all the people can adapt to technology, because there are some areas and there are a lot of people in rural area that they don't know and they don't understand and they have little knowledge about technology. So it gives the people a hard time in adapting and participating in the digital economy. Um, for the last one is the power asymmetric. When the technology advancing rates it increase, the margin that there is also the margin of inequality happen. This happens through the asymmetrics of information. So uh, not all the information are spread to all the people equally, and the the asymmetrics of information might lead to significant asymmetrics of power also. Since those who have the knowledge to operate the technology also have the power to do so. But for those who have little knowledge and not aware of technology, they don't have the ability to to get all the information. So this is the key that lead to inequality that might emerge between tech-savvy individuals that who understand and control this technology and less knowledgeable individuals. And that is the end of my part. Let's move to another part.
I think it's the end of group 2 presentation, right?
No,
No,
teacher,
there's still
there are
another
more parts.
More part, but society and individual we have already you guys have already presented, right?
It's 3.3.2 countries, religions, and cities.
Okay.
Yeah. So, since there's no border surrounding digital technology as it cannot be measured, this leads to questions around the geographic impact of technology and the impact of geography on technology. Questions that arise are such like what roles will countries, regions, and cities play in the fourth industrial revolution? Will Western Europe and the US lead the transformation like previous revolutions? And will there be more effective collaborations for betterment of society? Or will there be a further fragmentation both inside and across countries? Also, will automation take over the demand of low skilled and low wage in the production of goods and services? So countries and regions that are more likely to succeed when establishing preferred international norms in necessary fields of new digital economy, such like the use of commercial drones, the internet, digital health, 5G communication, and so on, will have a huge impact and benefits towards economic and financial benefits. Compared to countries that prioritize their own norms and policies to benefit domestic producers while also preventing or ignoring international competitors and decreasing royalties paid by domestic enterprises for foreign innovation, risk becomes isolated from global norms, which puts them in a spot or at a risk of being behind in digital economy. There are times when legislation and compliance at national or regional level can clash with each other despite shaping the ecosystem in which the companies operate. This addresses the question earlier. So in 2015, decision by European Court of Justice to invalidate the Safe Harbor Agreement that guided the flow of personal data between the US and the EU. This is to increase the cost of compliance that companies incur when doing business in Europe and has become a transatlantic issue of contention. The example highlights the growing importance of innovation ecosystem as competitiveness driver. Changes in the economy will take place. High and low cost countries, emerging mature markets will gradually matter less. But what matters more surrounds whether an economy has ability or can it innovate. If we were to look into today's competitive society, we can see that North America companies remain to be the most innovative as they're able to earn the most patents, commands a majority of the world's venture and capital, so on. Aside from North America and the EU's innovative economies, China shows impressive performance and continues to show immense progress since shifting its focus to innovation and services. Next slide, please. So if innovation ecosystem is not improved, countries and regions will not grow. And compared to rural areas, urban areas such as cities have been the engine of economic growth and social progress throughout history. From innovation and education to infrastructure and public administration, as technologies are implemented first in the city as an experimentation and powerful hub for turning new ideas into real value for local and global economies, such as transportation, energy consumption, water recycling. However, with the world advancing towards technological space, there is still a population that does not have smartphones. Some areas are not supported by mobile signals, whereas other countries do not have online access. Therefore, to create an economic opportunity and shared prosperity that is possible through new models of collaboration, efficiency, and entrepreneurship, governments must bridge the digital divide in countries at all stages of development to ensure cities and countries have
the basic infrastructures. Further data access is necessary to enhance development, such as tracking the outbreak of infectious disease, for example, the coronavirus status, responding to natural disasters, enhancing access to public and financial services for the poor, and understanding migration patterns of vulnerable populations. Next slide, please. Hi, next slide, please. Okay, so as for international security, on the first up, we have connectivity, fragmentation, and social unrest. In the hyper-connected world where information, ideas, and people are traveling faster than ever before, the hyper-connectivity also contains the potential to reach common ground based on greater acceptance and understanding of differences, which could help bring communities together rather than driving them apart. So if we do not continue moving in this direction, the alternative is that it leads to increasement of fragmentation. Second, the changing nature of conflict. The Industrial Revolution 4.0 will offer conflict in increasingly diverse ways to harm others on a grand scale. It will affect the scale of conflict as well as its character. Modern conflicts are increasingly hybrid in nature by combining traditional techniques with elements that were mostly associated with armed non-state actors. Technology also brings with it the possibility of greater precision in warfare, cutting-edge protective wear for combat, the capacity to print essential and other component rights on the battlefield, and so on. Lastly, the cyber warfare presents one of the most serious threats because any network or connected device can be hacked and attacked. Any future conflict may not play out in the physical world. It will most likely be included in a cyber dimension, which, because no modern opponent would resist its temptation to disrupt or destroy the enemy's sensor communication and decision-making capabilities, i.e. between Russia and Ukraine, that's happening. Cyber warfare can take form in many different ways, from criminal acts and espionage to destructive attacks. So this is it for my group. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, group number 1 and group number 2. I'm not sure whether you guys would like to continue the lesson or you would like to have a break like 10 minutes.
I will break, teacher.
You need break, right? Maniwat? Okay,
Yes.
let's break for 10 minutes only today because it seems that we are running out of time. See you at 7:40.
Thank you. Like
Okay, welcome back everyone. Are you all here? Hello?
Yes, teacher.
Hello?
Yes, teacher.
Can you
Yes.
see my slide presentation now?
Yes, teacher.
Yes.
Okay, now let me start presenting you again, and if you don't understand any point, please don't just come jump in and ask me the question, okay? Okay, and this is the contents of the presentation today. We will study about the impact of IO 4.0 on national and global, on society and the individual. And international and global section, we will focus on government, countries, regions and cities, and international security. Okay, now let's start with the impact of IO 4.0 on national and global, which focusing on governments only. More intense and innovation use of web technology can help public administrations modernize their structure as well as their function to improve the overall performance, which include strengthening processes of e-governance, fostering greater transparency, accountability, and engagement between the government and its citizens. Okay, there are 5 ways that technology improves public services. This is what I have taken from the outside sources, so you will not find it in the resources that you were reading. So there are 5 ways that technology improves public services. One is it helps to improve tax compliance and provision of public services. In this case, I would like to take the case of India at the digital ID program. I'm not sure whether I pronounce EDA correctly or not. It is a program that the goods and service tax is linked with the national ID system, meaning that there are behind the ID system or ID card, they have the one chip that can connect their information with the goods and service tax and also to the bank account. So so that it make their citizens easier to pay the tax and also the meaning, and they also don't need to spend time to go to the tax office and also minimize their contact with their tax officials as well. And another way is that technology can help reduce corruption by using blockchain technology. I'm not an expert of blockchain technology, but blockchain technology is kind of blockchain, just the name suggested. It is block of information which connect to one another. So if you would like, it's not easy. I will not say it is impossible, but it's not easy for you to change from one block of information because that block of information are connected to one another. You guys will have one section about the blockchain technology, so you can form the expert, so you can understand it well. Just that blockchain of technology is technology that are not allow you to change any information at all. So in the government of Andhra Pradesh state in India is utilizing blockchain technology to address the issue of fraud and corruption in the state by implementing this technology to make the data of land ownership encrypted and reduce corruption and transparency. Meaning that, for example, if household A has 5 hectares of land, the government cannot take that 5 hectares of land that means one or less than the hectare of land to sell to someone else because the information is registered already. So that 5 hectares of land is going to be under that name. Unless otherwise, they have the procedure to change the ownership of the name only. Okay, another way that technology improve public services, it provide quality education and training. And this one, I choose Check My School. Check My School initiative in the Philippines, and this initiative has the this initiative will let how can I say the people in the rural area in Philippines to report what's going on at their school. For example, if the government send that 500 textbook to their school in rural province A, but in the rural province A school over there they get only 200 book or something like that. They can go to their website and tell the information in the website, and in the website they will have the group in order to look at whether the information is correct or not, and if that kinds of information is correct, they will find a way in order to okay, say to make the number of book that deliver 500 textbook to I mean to how can I say if the information that reported by the school that okay, I get only 200 textbook someone in a website, especially the Ministry of Education, will find in the reason why they got only 200 textbook when they should have got 500 textbooks, something like that. Because of that, people in a school in the rural areas can report the problem immediately to the Ministry of Education in Manila. I mean in the main city, in the fast manner. Another one is technology can also provide better healthcare service, and this is you can take the example in Surabaya in Indonesia, that they has developed an e-health service system. It allows citizens to schedule an appointment in public health center or government-owned hospital without the need to stand in line. And the last one is that technology can help transform transportation and urban development. A number of cities in Indonesia are actively using technology to improve their transportation services. Jakarta Transport Authority collaborated with several application providers such as Trafi, WAS, and Google Maps to evaluate alternative traffic schemes, meaning that they can know which area that have more traffic jam or something like that. And then because of that, they can reduce the travel times of their Jakarta buses by 20% and increasing ridership by 30%. Now let's move to another one. So in the digital age, many barriers that are used to protect the public authority from providing efficient and effective service has been removed. Therefore, because of technology, the public has become better informed, and at the same time, we as a citizen also demand more for better services from the government. Another point that the author has raised is about that technology not only about demanding the government to provide more services, much more better services, but technology can also enable the citizen to have more chances to voice their opinion, so they can coordinate their efforts and excuse me, possibly circumvent government supervision. However, we should also remember that technology can also give rise to all powerful public authorities, and I will explain you in detail in the next slide. Okay, now I would like to take an example about the impact of technology on free and fair elections. So, cyber attack from authoritarian government and non-state across state actors pose a clear and increasing threat to democracies across the world through their interference in free and fair elections. So there are 4 ways that cyber attack can influence elections. The first one is cyber attack can manipulate fact and opinion that inform how the citizen vote. For example, they can be fake social media account or fake propaganda to how can I say to change the opinion of the citizen on party A or party B. The second way that cyber attack can influence an election is they interfere with the act of voting. For example, they can tampering with voter registration rolls. The third way is about the changing vote result. For sure, it's easier if it is very easy for if the cyber attack can go to change the result of the vote. For example, if party A got more vote than party B, if a cyber attack attacker prefer party B, they can change the result. Very easy. Another one is it can undermine confidence in the identity of the vote. Imagine that you know that you vote online, and you also realize that there may some cyber attacker can attack the result of the vote. So to what extent do you believe that the result of the vote really reflect the voice of the majority? Now let's move to another example related to the technology impact on human rights. So malicious exploitation of technology can affect the physical security of individual and of state. But the increasing digitalization of the past 2 decades has created the chilling effect on free speech. When citizens in certain countries feel less safe to assert their opinion because they know that their personal data are monitored or archived. Technology can track our location, also our all the information if the attacker would like to know. So in some countries, it's very, how can I say, it's not that safe for people to express their point of view related to the political aspect on their social media like Facebook or something like that. Internet shutdowns and other internet restrictions by government on their own populations are widespread, with more than 60 documented shutdown in the first 9 months of 2017. And the government just justify on the ground that they just do it for the sake of national security or the public order. You can see that in example related to the bombing in of the Istanbul airport and detainment of 11 for Kurdish lawmaker in 2016. That time, the Turkish government has cut down all the access to social media site and messaging service on WhatsApp, on Facebook, on Twitter as well. Because in the sake that it's okay, this is for national security, but actually the government just don't want to hide the information from the citizen. Okay, now let's move to see the WikiLeaks. I'm sure that maybe some of you have known WikiLeaks. So WikiLeaks was set up in 2006 as a platform for anonymous whistleblowers wanting to share top secret information on data. The most recent and public release of document that you may have known is the one related to the U.S. election at the time that Hillary Clinton ran for the election. At the time, the WikiLeaks time the release of document and email from leaders within the Democratic Party regarding the nomination of Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders. The emails damningly showed favorism and also scheming to ensure that Senator Bernie Sanders did not receive the party's nomination. WikiLeaks have, there are two groups of people, those who support WikiLeaks and those who don't support WikiLeaks. Those who support WikiLeaks think that it is WikiLeaks is the one who provide the groundbreaking investigation journalism, meaning that some data that hide from the public, that hide from the citizen are brought to daylight or brought to the public, so that we can know what is going on with the government. But for those who don't support WikiLeaks, said that it can posing a risk to national security. For sure, every country has their own data, secret secret information they don't want to share. Therefore, what happened if the WikiLeaks share the how can I say the data or information that are the top secret of the countries to the rest of the world? Because some country they have the competitor. Just for example, look at Ukraine and Russia. These two countries, more or less, if it's very risky, if the WikiLeaks leak the information from Ukraine, the top secret, to the Russia, or from the Russia to Ukraine or to other countries. So that's the point that those who does not support, those who don't support WikiLeaks as the concern. Okay, now let's move to another slide. New technology has changed the central role of the government. In the past, recently, the government has the role to conduct the policy. However, new technology will change the role from conducting the policy to become public service center. As a result, the government will need to be evaluated on their ability to deliver the expanded service in the more efficient and individual base. And to survive in this rapid disruption of technology, the government need to adapt by completely transform into much leaner and more efficient. In this, if you have noticed the trend of our government, for example, before we cannot pay the tax online, right? We need to go to the bank in order to pay our property taxation, in order to pay for our vehicle taxation. But now we can use mobile phone to pay for our tax. So this is the way that the government trying to change the service, change their role into the public service center to improve, to use technology to improve their efficiency and to improve their efficiency in providing the public services. And more in the future, our government will try to do more. But now, as you have known that we are in the transition stage and we all need more human resources, so we will take care for government to use the technology in every aspect of the public services. Now let's move to another slide. So in the old world, decision maker had enough time to study on a specific issue and then create the necessary response to appropriate regulatory framework. Because at that time there's no that like the new 24 hours like that. There's no Facebook, there's no WhatsApp, something that how can I say provide you the instant information like that. So at in the previous time, the government have enough time. And the process seem like to be linear and it is strict from a top-down approach. However, today's political, legislative, and regulatory authority are often overtaken by event, as I have already mentioned, and as your friend has already mentioned that because of technology. So technology is very fast. So the government, because technology is really fast, some information even get reach to the citizen before to the top level government staff. So more or less it gives pressure to the government to decide very quick, need to act immediately because the citizen got the information first. So some issues are really sensitive to the citizen. So it needs the government to act immediately. Because of this reason, they may not have enough time to do a reasonable judgment, which may impact the whole, how can I say, the whole country as well. So in such condition, the question is